something I've been wanting to do for a while now. This is a Toyota Corolla Carb, cost me $100, and I'm going to put it on the Suzuki and get rid of the original carb. So I'm going to get straight into this by pulling the old Suzuki carb off. It's really simple. I'm just going to loosen the 4 bolts that go through to the manifold. I'm going to get rid of the fuel line. I'm going to get rid of some of these vacuum lines. Get rid of the throttle. There you go, that carb just pulls off. So once you pull the carby off, you've got this spacer plate here that pulls off. Try and keep the gaskets intact if you don't have new ones. Put a clean rag in there to keep anything out of the intake. So here's the 2 different carbs. So this is the original one, massive and clunky, got all sorts of stuff hanging off the side of it that mostly doesn't work on this thing. My choke doesn't really work, I've got bits flopping about, my throttle is flogged out, it has play in the shaft, just got all sorts of things that don't work or don't need to be there. So that's the old one that we're getting rid of, and here's the new one. So this is for a Toyota Corolla. They're pretty much just straight bolt on. There's a few things you do have to modify, but this has got your throttle, no play, it's got a mechanical secondary, accelerator pump that works, good choke, and only 1 vacuum line, so it makes it super easy to plumb up. So another reason for putting one of these on your Suzuki is you're going to get more power and probably a bit more fuel economy. So I've got a 28mm primary instead of a 26mm primary, and a 28mm secondary instead of a 30mm secondary. So secondary is a bit smaller, but the primary is a bit bigger, so it's going to give you a bit better low end power. But we have to make a few mods to the intake and possibly a few mods to the carby and a spot to hold our accelerator cable. So this new carb I've got here, it's almost been designed for the swap, because most Toyota Corolla carbs, they don't have that little slot through there, which is for the vacuum. Usually you have to cut a slot in the actual spacer plate. So you'd usually have to put a notch through there so you can let the vacuum through. This has got it in the carby, which means we don't have to touch the spacer plate. So there are a few modifications we have to make to get this thing to fit. They're not very big ones, but they're enough just to be a bit of a hassle. So where the throttle links up, that little hole there, that has to be drilled out to 8mm. Now usually underneath you would actually have to take a bit out of this base plate. I don't have to do that, but most other carbs you probably will. So I'm not going to write that on my list, but that is one thing you have to do. And also I've seen this vacuum channel filled in. I don't see the reason why. I'm going to leave it for now, but if it causes any problems, it's not that hard to take off and fill in. Also the primary one just there, this has to be dremeled or filed out to 28mm instead of 26. We also need something to hold the throttle, because as you can see there's nothing for the throttle to kind of pull off, so we need a throttle bracket. Now instead of putting bolts through the carby, we need to put studs in the manifold, because there's no space, well in 2 of the spots here there's no space to put a bolt through, so we have to put 2 studs or possibly 4 in the actual manifold. So on the top here there is no sort of stud there to put your air cleaner on and bolt it down, so I have to make up a stud for that. So now I've got the air cleaner top here. The outside diameter of the top of this carby is actually a bit smaller than the inside diameter of this, so it sort of floats around a little bit, but I'm going to put a big bit of rubber in there. So there will be a few more things than what I've mentioned here, things like vacuum lines and the choke. I'll have to play around with the choke, see what's going to go on there, but that's all the main stuff I think. There could be a few little other things that pop up, but we're going to get started on that. So now I'm going to get this flat. I've already started, but I've just got a fine flat file, and I'm holding it as flat as I can and just going across it. So I've already made one stud here. Now that's just a normal bolt with the head cut off it, just a high tensile bolt. I'm going to do the same to that one over there. So now I've got my two studs. I've marked a line from 25mm from the top. That's how much has to be sticking out, so you can grab onto everything. Whatever's left can go into the manifold. I'm going to put just a little bit of blue Loctite on it. That should be about it there. So this is the carby all bolted down. Stud on that side, bolt on that side. It's all on there. Got my fuel line sorted. Now it's not finished, but it does run. It starts super easy. It needs a big tune. Needs to be tuned. It doesn't go too well, but starts easy and it runs much nicer than the other one. So this is what I've come up with. I've cut and bent the old accelerator cable bracket from the old carby, bolted it on there. Sits nicely. You get probably 95% throttle. What I've done to get, it was about 80 before, but what I've done is actually taken that bolt out there, taken the carpet out and dinted the firewall in, so it gets more travel now. It's a bit dodgy, but it works. Pretty much full travel. So now that it's all done and this part finished, you have to get to the air cleaner side of things. So I've got a piece of rubber, and I'm going to cut that out, stick that in there. That will give a bit of sealing and it'll also sit it up a bit, and then we'll find out where we have to dent after that. So there's the outline of the top of the carb. I just put that on there, went round it with a hammer, just lightly, put the indent in. We're going to cut the inside out. We're going to leave some on the outside because it has to have that space there. So here's that rubber piece I made. It's a bit scrappy, but it fits over there. Holds on nice and tight. This is our air cleaner. That sits on there, but instead of having a stud coming out of there, just more work, I've just got a bolt, just at that same thread pitch. Just going to sit that on there like that, look through, and just bolt it on. And what's good about having that rubber bit there, and this different sort of carb, is nothing hits. You can do the throttle, the choke, nothing hits, it all just misses. So really this is done now.